A humble grandmother stood beside her 8-year-old grandson, carefully counting the few coins she had to pay for her groceries. As she did so, the impatient cashier began to belittle her, humiliating her in front of everyone with cruel remarks that seemed to cut deeper with every word. The weight of shame was evident in her eyes as she struggled to keep her composure, all for the sake of her grandson. What no one noticed, however, was the discreet man in a black jacket standing just behind her in line, silently observing the whole situation. His next move would leave everyone in shock. The sun shone brightly, but a gentle breeze softened the warmth of the day as Mary walked with Liam toward the grocery store. Her clothes were modest, well worn from years of use, but always kept spotless. Liam's small, confident hand gripped hers, his 8-year-old eyes sparkling with curiosity and innocence as he looked around at the towering shelves filled with goods. Mary examined the price tags of each item carefully, knowing she had to make every decision count. In the cart, there were only the essentials: a bag of rice, a carton of milk, and a loaf of bread, simple necessities she could afford. Meanwhile, Liam's attention wandered to the colorful packaging of sweets and cookies. His excitement was obvious as they passed by the cookie aisle. Mary hesitated, her gaze fixed on a familiar package, a box of chocolate cookies with a blue and white label. Her chest tightened as memories of Emily, her late daughter, flooded back. Emily had always bought that exact box for Liam before her tragic passing 2 years ago in a sudden car accident. The grief had been overwhelming, but Mary had no time to mourn. She had to stay strong for Liam, keeping a promise she made to Emily to care for him and give him as much joy as she could, even at her own expense. "Grandma, these are the ones Mom used to get me. Can we get them?" Liam asked, his eyes lighting up with the joy of remembering his mother's kindness. A lump formed in Mary's throat. The sight of Liam's hopeful face made her struggles seem small, but she knew her finances were tight. After a moment's hesitation, she picked up the box and placed it gently in the cart. Emily's voice seemed to echo in her mind, encouraging her to keep Liam's smile alive, even if it meant sacrificing her own well-being. "Of course, sweetheart," she said, offering a warm smile to mask her worries. Mary had always been resilient. She had lost her daughter, faced financial hardships, and adjusted to a simpler life, but she never let Liam feel the weight of her burdens. Every trip to the grocery store was an exercise in balancing necessity versus indulgence. No matter how tight things were, saying no to Liam's hopeful smile felt impossible. As they approached the checkout, Mary silently counted her coins, fearing it might not be enough to cover their total. When it was time to pay, the cashier's impatience became clear. He glanced at the few items in the cart and then at the small pouch of coins Mary was pulling out of her bag. "Coins? Seriously? This isn't a bank, lady," he sneered, crossing his arms and speaking loudly enough for everyone around them to hear. "You couldn't count these at home before coming here?" The murmurs of discomfort among the other customers grew louder. Mary's face flushed as she counted her coins, her hands trembling from the stress. Liam looked up at his grandmother, sensing the tension, but not fully understanding what was going on. "I'm sorry," Mary whispered, barely audible as she tried to hurry. The cashier's sarcastic laugh cut through the air. "Sorry doesn't cut it, lady. Maybe next time, bring a card, like normal people do." A man in line, witnessing the exchange, stepped forward to intervene. "Hey, that's unnecessary. Let her pay at her own pace," he said. The cashier shot him a cynical smile. "You're welcome to come up here and count these coins yourself." Meanwhile, Liam tugged at Mary's sleeve, his voice gentle. "It's okay, Grandma. Don't be sad." Mary tried to smile back, though it broke her heart to see him trying to protect her. As she counted the last few coins, she realized it wasn't enough to cover the total. "I think we'll leave the cookies," she said with a shaky voice. "Just the other items, please." Liam forced a smile, trying to ease her discomfort. "It's okay, Grandma. I wasn't really in the mood for cookies anyway." His small, tender voice made her heart break. The cashier tossed the cookies aside, rolling his eyes. "Maybe now we can finish this line," he muttered, his tone dripping with disdain. He glanced at the growing line of customers. "Thanks for your patience, folks," he added, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Not everyone knows how to shop properly." But just as Mary began to give up, a tall man in a black jacket and dark sunglasses stepped forward. He slowly removed his sunglasses, revealing a calm but determined gaze. "That's enough," he said, his deep voice echoing across the store. His presence was undeniable. The cashier froze, realizing that his actions had not gone unnoticed. "Do you always treat your customers like this, or is today a special occasion?" the man asked, his tone steady but sharp. The cashier, caught off guard, stammered, "And you are?" The man removed his sunglasses completely, his gaze firm and unyielding. "No," he replied. "I'm just someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect." The murmurs among the customers grew louder as they realized who was standing in front of them. Some began to whisper, "Is that?" But the cashier still didn't seem to recognize the man. He rolled his eyes and attempted to brush it off. "Look, sir, I'm just trying to speed things up. This lady is holding up the line with her sack of coins. What's the big deal?" The man's voice was calm but resolute. "You think respect is optional in your job?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. "She's paying just like everyone else. What makes you think you have the right to treat her this way?" The cashier hesitated for a moment, taken aback by the man's calm demeanor, but quickly regained his defensive posture. "I'm just saying it's not fair to the other customers. Everyone's in a hurry." "Fair?" the man repeated with a slight smile. "What's not fair is making a grandmother and her grandson feel humiliated just because you're impatient. Maybe you should rethink what fairness really means." The tension in the air was palpable as the customers watched the exchange. Some whispered in disapproval of the cashier's behavior, while others simply watched in uncomfortable silence. But before anyone could say anything further, the man stepped closer to the cashier. "Is that Keanu Reeves?" someone whispered, barely audible but loud enough to catch the attention of those nearby. The cashier's expression shifted from arrogance to disbelief. "Keanu Reeves?" he stammered, his confidence evaporating. Keanu stepped forward, leaning slightly toward the cashier. "That's right," he said, his voice soft but firm. "And now you know who's asking you to treat people with dignity." The customers, recognizing the actor, began to murmur excitedly. Meanwhile, Keanu turned to Mary and Liam, his expression softening. He glanced at the box of cookies in Liam's hands and smiled. "These cookies look delicious," he said. "I think they should definitely go home with you today." Mary, overwhelmed by emotion, tried to speak but found herself unable to. She could only nod, her heart full of gratitude and surprise. Keanu turned back to the cashier, his tone calm but resolute. "Cancel this transaction for me." The cashier, clearly flustered, tried to protest. "Wait, but you've already paid." "I did," Keanu said with a calm smile. "But I have a better idea. Let's make another purchase, a real one." He turned back to Mary and Liam. "Let's grab another cart and do a proper shopping trip. I want you to pick out everything you really need. And Liam, you can pick out some toys too." Mary, her voice trembling, shook her head. I can't accept this. It's too much." Keanu gently took her hand. "You've done so much for him," he said softly. "Now it's my turn to help. Sometimes accepting help is the hardest and most courageous thing we can do." Liam's eyes lit up with excitement. "Can we, Grandma? Please?" Mary took a deep breath, fighting back her tears. "Thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart." Keanu smiled warmly, and the three of them headed down the aisles together. Keanu encouraged Mary to take whatever she needed. "Don't worry about the price," he said. "Let's make sure you and Liam are set for a while." As the cart filled, Liam's excitement grew. He eagerly pointed out toys and treats. Keanu laughed. "If your grandma says yes, it goes in the cart." As they approached the checkout, Keanu turned one last time to the cashier, who had been watching the whole scene unfold. "Remember, kindness is the one thing that truly changes the world," Keanu said, his voice firm. "Think about that while you void that transaction." The customers in the store, who had been silent witnesses to the moment, began to clap. Some even shouted words of encouragement. "This is incredible! He's not just a movie star, he's a role model," one customer said. Keanu and Mary reached the checkout counter where a cart brimming with groceries, clothes, toys, and essentials awaited them. Liam, now visibly more cheerful, held a small toy truck in his hands, gazing at it as if he couldn't believe it was his. "Let's pay for all of this," Keanu said calmly to the new cashier, who had replaced the previous one. The new cashier, visibly moved by the scene, quickly processed the transaction. Mary, still overwhelmed with emotion, held onto Keanu's arm. "I'll never be able to repay you for this," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. Keanu smiled gently. "It's not about repayment," he said. "It's about helping when we can. You've done so much for Liam. Now it's my turn to give something back." The customers watched, some of them wiping tears from their eyes. Many were visibly moved by the kindness they had witnessed. "Keanu is an angel on earth," one person said. Later, an elderly woman approached Mary, taking her hand gently. "My dear," she said, "you deserve this. What a beautiful gesture he's made. Take good care of that boy, and remember, you're never alone." Mary, overwhelmed, thanked her. And as she looked at Liam, her heart swelled with gratitude. Liam, looking up at Keanu, said, "Thank you, sir. You're like a real-life hero." Keanu knelt down to Liam's level, smiling as he replied, "You know, Liam, real heroes are the ones who take care of the people they love, just like your grandma does for you every day." As the scene unfolded, Brad, who had been watching from a distance, finally approached. He was visibly embarrassed and struggling to find words. I'm sorry," he said, his voice tinged with regret. "I shouldn't have treated you like that. I was wrong." Keanu regarded him calmly, but with no judgment. "You don't need to know someone's story to treat them with respect," he said. "Kindness is a choice, Brad, and we all have the power to make it. Use this moment to be better." Brad lowered his head, clearly moved by Keanu's words. He walked back to the stockroom, silently promising himself to change his attitude. A few weeks later, Mary and Liam were at the park, enjoying the day. Liam kicked around a new soccer ball he had picked out during their shopping trip. Mary sat on a bench, smiling as she watched him. The peace she felt was unlike anything she had experienced in years. Then, a black car pulled up nearby, and Keanu stepped out. He walked over to Mary with a small package in hand. "Hi, Mary," he said with a smile. "I thought you and Liam might like this." He handed her the package, and inside were framed photos of Mary and Liam smiling at the store that day. There was also a note, "To remind you that kindness always wins." Tears filled Mary's eyes as she hugged Keanu tightly. "You didn't just change our lives, Keanu," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "You gave us hope." Keanu smiled warmly. "You've inspired me just as much as I hope I've inspired you. Keep being incredible." As the scene unfolded, more customers continued to watch in silence, many clearly moved by the display of kindness. The moment was captured on video by someone in the store, and it quickly went viral. Thousands of comments flooded social media, with people praising Keanu for his generosity and compassion. "This is the kind of example the world needs," one comment read. "Keanu Reeves is an angel on earth." The impact of the story extended beyond the internet. The grocery store's management, inspired by what had happened, introduced new training programs for their employees, focusing on empathy and customer respect. Brad, the cashier at the center of the incident, volunteered to lead the training, determined to make amends for his earlier actions. He also sought out Mary to apologize again, this time with sincerity. "I didn't know what you were going through," Brad said, his voice genuine. "That's no excuse for my behavior, but I want you to know I'm working to be a better person." Mary, moved by his humility, accepted his apology. She knew that change, even when small, could make a difference. Several weeks later, Mary and Liam were at the park, enjoying a rare moment of peace. Liam kicked around a new soccer ball he had picked out during their shopping trip. He ran with energy and joy, while Mary sat on a nearby bench, watching him with a contented smile. For the first time in a long while, she felt at ease, her worries momentarily lifted. Just then, a black car pulled up, and Keanu stepped out, dressed casually. He walked over to Mary, holding a small package in his hands. "Hi, Mary," he said with a warm smile. "I thought you and Liam might like this." He handed her the package, and inside were framed photos of Mary and Liam from their day at the store, along with a note that read, "To remind you that kindness always wins." Tears welled up in Mary's eyes as she held the package, overcome with emotion. "Keanu, you didn't just change our lives," she said, her voice trembling. "You gave us hope." Keanu smiled, his eyes softening. "You've inspired me just as much as I hope I've inspired you. Keep being incredible." Liam, looking up at Keanu, beamed with admiration. "Thank you, sir. You're like a real-life hero," he said, his voice full of awe. Keanu knelt down to Liam's level, his expression warm. "You know, Liam," he said gently, Real heroes are the ones who take care of the people they love, just like your grandma does for you every day. As Mary watched this exchange, her heart swelled with gratitude. She had never imagined such kindness could come into her life. She had always been the one to care for Liam, but now someone was showing her the same love and care. Brad, watching from a distance, eventually gathered the courage to approach. He seemed uncomfortable, clearly embarrassed by his past actions. I'm sorry, he said, looking down. I shouldn't have treated you like that. I was wrong. Keanu regarded him calmly, offering no judgment. You don't need to know someone's story to treat them with respect, he said quietly. Kindness is a choice, Brad, and we all have the power to make it. Use this moment to be better. Brad lowered his head, his eyes filled with humility. He walked away silently, resolved to make a change in his behavior.